There's a war unfolding in the Middle East. Not a shadow war, not a proxy skirmish. This time it's direct. For the first time in modern history, Iran and Israel are trading open blows. Missiles, drones, and airstrikes flying between two sovereign states that have long treated each other as mortal enemies. And the speed at which this conflict is escalating has caught much of the world off guard. It didn't start with a declaration of war. It started with a message. In April 2024, Israeli jets bombed Iran's consulate in Damascus, Syria. That strike wasn't just a diplomatic violation. It was a strategic hit. Among the dead were several senior members of Iran's Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps, including a high-ranking general, widely seen as the architect of Iran's operations in Syria and Lebanon. Israel had killed IRGC officers before, but never like this. Never on such a high-profile diplomatic site. Tehran couldn't let it pass. And so for the first time, Iran launched a direct military attack on Israel from its own territory. Over 300 drones and missiles rained down on Israeli airspace. Most were intercepted, thanks to Israel's Iron Dome, Arrow systems, and coordinated support from the US and allies like the UK and Jordan. But symbolically, the red line had been crossed. Iran wasn't hiding behind proxies anymore. It was stepping into the ring. Israel, of course, hit back. At first with targeted strikes in Syria, then with something more. In mid-June 2025, Israeli aircraft launched deep strikes inside Iran itself, hitting key military sites, damaging Iran's ballistic missile infrastructure, and even targeting facilities near Isfahan, a site associated with Iran's nuclear program. Tehran responded by launching another massive wave of missiles and drones, this time larger, more precise, and more dangerous. Now both countries are locked in a rapidly escalating cycle of retaliation. The latest wave of Iranian strikes included hundreds of ballistic missiles and over 1,000 drones. Israeli cities were targeted. Military bases took hits. At least 24 Israelis were killed and over 2,000 injured. While Israel's missile defense systems performed well, no system is perfect. A few missiles slipped through. And when they did, they caused real damage, wounding civilians, collapsing buildings, and overwhelming hospitals. On the other side, Israel's air campaign has been even more devastating. Iranian officials report over 600 deaths, though independent sources say the number may be higher. Civilian casualties are mounting. Cities like Isfahan and Tehran have seen major blackouts. Fuel is scarce. Hospitals are overflowing. And in a move that signals just how severe the crisis has become, Iran has effectively shut off its own internet, cutting domestic connectivity by more than 97%. Messaging apps are down. VPNs are blocked. It's an information blackout, designed to control the narrative at home and prevent unrest. And yet unrest is exactly what's bubbling beneath the surface. In both countries, but especially in Iran. Citizens, many of them already under economic pressure from years of sanctions and inflation, are now facing the terror of airstrikes and the silence of a disconnected world. Videos smuggled out of the country show long lines for food, hospitals without power, and neighbourhoods reduced to rubble. This is a war being fought not only with missiles but with fear and confusion. What makes this moment so dangerous is how little room there is for error. For decades, Iran and Israel fought their battles through proxies. Hezbollah in Lebanon, Hamas in Gaza, militias in Iraq and Syria. There was violence, yes, but it was managed violence. Calibrated, contained. What we're seeing now is entirely different. This is a direct open-state conflict between two heavily armed nations, with long-range weapons and very little mutual trust. It's a conflict that's being fought in real time, with drone swarms, satellite targeting, and cyber warfare. And unlike previous wars in the region, it's not clear that either side is looking for a quick way out. Israel, for its part, appears to have made a strategic decision to abandon its old doctrine of containment. For years, it accepted a steady drip of threats and low-level attacks from Iranian proxies. That posture is over. The strikes inside Iran suggest a new strategy, one aimed at degrading Tehran's military capacity directly, not just through its satellites. Iran, meanwhile, is no longer hiding its hand. By launching state-on-state attacks, it's signalling that it considers this a confrontation worth escalating, even at great cost. The United States is no longer on the sidelines. After days of intense consultation and growing pressure following the wave of Iranian missile attacks, US forces have now directly struck targets inside Iran. The Pentagon confirmed precision strikes on drone launch facilities, radar systems, and command and control centers believed to be responsible for orchestrating recent attacks on US assets and allies in the region. American warships and air bases across the Gulf played a central role. This is a major escalation, one that signals Washington is no longer just defending Israel, but actively targeting Iranian military infrastructure. This shift fundamentally changes the dynamics of the conflict. For Iran, it confirms long-held suspicions that the US is not just a passive backer of Israel, but a co-combatant. For Israel, it provides critical strategic cover and breathing room, knowing the US will help shoulder the military burden. And for the rest of the region, it's a clear warning. The conflict has now become international. Other players are recalculating. Hezbollah has reportedly raised its alert level, but so far has not launched a full-scale attack. Jordan and Saudi Arabia are reinforcing border defences, bracing for a spillover. The Houthis in Yemen, already active against shipping in the Red Sea, have warned that further US involvement could lead them to escalate. Iraq's government is under immense pressure as Iranian-backed militias threaten to target US bases on its soil. The conflict's centre may still be between Tehran and Tel Aviv, but the radius of instability is expanding. Meanwhile, on the ground in both countries, the human cost continues to grow. In Iran, civilian casualties from Israeli and now American airstrikes are mounting. Entire neighbourhoods have been levelled in cities like Isfahan and Shiraz. Fuel shortages, blackouts and hospital overcrowding are pushing Iran's civil infrastructure to the brink. In Israel, cities in the north remain under threat of rocket fire, and residents have begun relocating southward as fears of a Hezbollah front mount. Air raid sirens have become daily background noise. And the digital war is intensifying too. Iran's near-total internet blackout continues, with only partial access returning in recent days. The regime is trying to keep control of the narrative, but videos and images of destruction are still slipping through. At the same time, Israeli systems have been targeted by sophisticated cyber attacks, some of which briefly disrupted electricity and communications in parts of Tel Aviv and Haifa. What makes this situation uniquely volatile is that neither side seems ready to stop. Israel believes this is its chance to degrade Iran's military capabilities for years to come. Iran sees this as a test of national survival and regional credibility. And now that the US is involved militarily, expectations are rising that this war could drag on, morph, and widen into something far harder to contain. The oil markets are already reacting. Prices are spiking. Global airlines are rerouting to avoid not just Iran and Israel, but now parts of Iraq, the Persian Gulf, and even Egypt. Diplomats are scrambling, but peace efforts remain stalled. Talks in Geneva between European powers and Iran broke down within hours. Russia and China have condemned US strikes, but offered no direct intervention. For now, at least, there's no off-ramp in sight. And so we end this first part of the story with no ceasefire, no resolution, and no certainty. Just a sense that we've crossed into a new phase, one where the old rules no longer apply. In part 2, we'll explore what this new phase could look like. Could this be the start of a regional war? Will Hezbollah and the Houthis join in fully? Will the US go beyond limited strikes? And is there any path left that leads away from catastrophe? Or have we already passed the point of no return? Because this isn't just a conflict between two bitter enemies, it's becoming a test of global order, and one that might define the next era of geopolitics.